It's Saturday, September 11th, 2010, and today I'm going to do the big potato dig for the year. And this is a year that I used the John Jevons method for planting my potatoes, and I'm really curious to see what kind of yield I get. First up, I need to rake up the rest of the vegetation that has died back that is still laying on the ground. So that will be the first thing I will do today. So I've taken the rake and hand pulled and raked up the vegetation that was still laying on the ground, and now I've got pretty much a clear palette to work from. Along the way of doing that raking process and pulling, I actually pulled up a few potatoes already that are right on the surface. If I find any that were on the surface that had a little bit of greening from being exposed, then I of course will just toss those into the compost pile. But in large part, I know, because I saw them being pulled up as I did it, that these are just recently pulled up, and I will just come through and put them in the bucket right away before I begin my process of digging. And there's one of my garden helpers. She knows when I'm digging that there's going to be bugs. Alright, before I get started with the dig process, I make sure I have everything I need right here. First up, I know that I'm going to have a fairly good harvest this year, so I've got the wheelbarrow set out to put the dug up potatoes into, the ones that are unblemished and ready for storage. And I also have two buckets here because no matter how carefully I dig, I always end up cutting into some. And they're perfectly good and usable, but you do need to keep them out and use them up as fast as possible because they're just not good for storage. The other thing, of course, is you need your garden fork, which is used to then do the digging process. So I think with that and a good pair of gloves, I am ready to get going. Because this is a long and 4-foot wide bed, I work my way down one side and then come back and get the other. And what I do is I just basically dig in on one corner and start creating a trench, carefully lifting and then putting the soil mounded onto the next side. And I just work my way down. It's kind of similar to a double dig, except for I'm not digging down below. I'm just going on the top layer and moving it over so that I can get to the potatoes, trying to be really careful so that I don't damage them in the process, which still happens anyway. This section I just did right here is where I've actually been already harvesting, but I go back over it because invariably I leave stuff behind. And look at this. I've done just this one section, 4 foot by 2 foot, and this was previously harvested, and yet look what I found. Lots of potatoes, so it's really worth your while to really go slow, dig the entire bed, even though you've been into a section already. Well, it's been about 4 hours of digging, but at this point I have gotten the bed completely dug, and this is a 128 square foot bed. It's 32 feet long and 4 feet wide, and I harvested today just a little over 144 pounds. Combined with what I've already harvested year to date, fresh harvest, I have a total of 170 pounds and a quarter for the entire bed, and I think that's really a good production out of this bed. Let me show you how I weigh these. Okay, here's a bucket of potatoes. This is the last bucket that I pulled out of the ground, and what I have here is it's a luggage weigher. And you just strap it onto the handle. Let me see if I can get that on there. And you turn it on. And then you just lift it up and hold it. And this bucket is 24.4 pounds. This is really handy for doing big items like this. And it was a gift actually from my boss. And it was a Christmas gift, and it's come in really handy. So this is what 144, actually a little over 144 pounds of potatoes look like. It's in my wheelbarrow, and you can see how full that is. In fact, the wheelbarrow tire is actually going flat because of the weight of the potatoes. I'll put these in the breezeway to dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will box them up, pulling out the smaller potatoes for the seed potato for next year, and storing the rest for our use through the winter. We did get quite a few really nice sized potatoes. This is a Caribay, and see if I can find here we go. Here's a nice sized russet Burbank. So we actually got some really good sized potatoes, a nice variety this year. There are some Yukon Golds down in there too. I think we had a good harvest this year.